Tonight on Joy News Prime, University of Ghana Vice-Chancellor laments reputational damage caused the institution by the BBC Sex for Grace documentary. He is also denied sexual harassment allegations leveled by CEO of a company that once had business relations with the university. Well, they have
the content that it deserves. You've seen me, and you can tell. Personally, I would describe the lady as somebody who is desperate, somebody who is bitter and extremely angry. She's full of anger and frustrated.
Well, the Africa Integra CEO has in the last few hours denied ever accusing the University of Ghana Vice-Chancellor of sexual harassment. We'll bring you the details. Anti-gay coalition demands that the country's political parties state clearly in their manifestos their stance on LGBTQ rights, despite President Akufo-Addo's recent pronouncement on the matter.
Parties can do, because they want us to hand over the sovereignty of the people. Tell us, what is your policy position on the LGBT agenda? Because whether we like it or not, the LGBT movement is one of the most, in fact, if not the most organized and the most resourced.
We'll hear from the country's two leading political parties and in business.
Ghana pushes for a common local content policy for Africa's oil and gas sector.
Recent agreement to establish African Continental Free Trade Area lends credence to the call for the integration of local content policies into a regional local content framework in the upstream petroleum sector.
I'm Israel I, and Joy News Prime comes to you live from the Joy News studio at Kokomlimli here, and our crowd digital address GA0992539. Stay tuned in. Ghana's most vocal anti-gay coalition is demanding that the country's political parties clearly articulate in their manifestos their stance on the legalization of homosexuality. The coalition has suggested an agenda by the global LGBTQ community to push for gay rights in Ghana and other African countries where those rights are not recognized. It maintains comprehensive sexuality education as a subject in schools is one of the many subtle ways being used by the LGBT community to advance their cause. Though President Akufo-Addo only recently clarified Ghana will not permit the recognition of such rights as long as he remains the country's leader, the National Coalition for Proper Human Sexual Rights and Family Values is demanding that all political parties document their stance on the matter. Legal practitioner Moses Fuamwening spoke with Joy News' Henry Kwesi Badu at the coalition's monthly news conference.
We're only picking up from where the president left off. We're only doing, we're just at an activation of the president's general statement. So, you know, all Ghanaians don't like this. And it's not only this year. You remember when Cameron spoke, Professor Mills spoke against it. It was a lot of bubble and then it went down. So we think that we must come to a point where we have a strategy to respond to it holistically, what we call a comprehensive national and Pan-African response to the whole LGBT agenda. Because if we don't like it, then what's our position? And we all know our position. The Western Eurocentric viewpoint is that LGBTQI phenomena is a lifestyle. They like it, they love it, fine. But we in Africa and the Muslim Arab world, and even in Asia, Latin America, and even the majority of the people in Europe and America, because the LGBTQ movement, they are just 0.0% of the population in Europe and America. But because they have money and they've got influence, that's why they seem to be projecting an opinion as representing what the world believes in. We in Africa, we believe that it's a psychosocial problem with biological and medical sides to it, and you can have a five-fold solution to it: psychological, psychiatric, psychosocial counseling, medical methods, and the spiritual aspect. If you put all of that together, then you can have a solution. So all we are saying is that the best that the political parties can do, because they want us to hand over the sovereignty of the people. Don't forget that by the Constitution, sovereignty resides in the people of this country. Every 4 years, we delegate that power to you. So if we're going to do so, then you must reflect what we believe in, not you what you believe in or a few of your people believe in. All right? So tell us, what is your policy position on the LGBT agenda? Because whether we like it or not, the LGBT movement is one of the most, in fact, if not the most organized and the most resourced movement, social movement the world has ever known. And if we don't respond to it holistically and in a structured manner, then we're going to suffer. So the politicians should do Ghanaians a favor, because in the elections, we're going to ask questions. Where is your manifesto? In it, is there a response? And we're saying as a coalition.
Member of the coalition, Dr. Samuel Ongwona, who outlined the role of the United Nations and its agencies in the promotion of the LGBTQ agenda, served notice they will have no option than to march to petition the United Nations to make known their stance against the movement.
Wait, the coalition here in Ghana is not the first of its kind to rise up. In Canada, families and parents have sent out all kinds of notes to the government, petitions to abort the CSE. In Brazil, it has been aborted. In Uganda, it has been aborted. In the UK and the USA, parents are bringing petitions to the government to abort it. I think it won't be long before we join with Asia and the Arab world to send petitions to the UN to arrest this thing from the hands of UNFPA and UNESCO. You go to international conferences and they are spreading condoms all over the place. That is not life. Life is more than sex. And God used the front door for sex and the back door for rejection of feces. How can the back door become a channel for sex? How? What is the sense in?
He also wants all copies of the printed guidelines on comprehensive sexuality education burned.
If you say it is not going to happen under your presidency, then show us the destruction of the manual, because it's been produced. They have copies. Number two, the curriculum program for class 4 to class 6 has been produced. And it says that, I think item number 9 for class 4 and class 5 is CSE. Item number 1 for class 6 is CSE. It came off the press September 2019. Where are those documents? We want to see them burnt to ashes. If the president says it's not going to happen, then what are you keeping the books for? Number 3, supplementary budget of the Minister of Finance. Supplementary budget is when you propose to spend 200 million and you realize by the middle of the year that you really need 250 million, i.e. because things didn't work out or new programs have become necessary to be added. So you're asking for 50 extra million supplementary to the original budget. In the supplementary budget of the Minister of Finance, there's a paragraph on CSE. In other words, the Minister of Finance has gone to Parliament to say, give us money to complete this program. So if the president says it's not happening, we want to see that money allocated to something else. So it is not over by simply saying it's not happening under my presidency. We want to see action, real action. We want to see physical destruction of the documents. That's why we are following up.
Vice Chancellor of the University of Ghana, Professor Ebenezer Owusu, says the university is challenged in dealing with cases of sexual harassment, as some victims who have made allegations in the past have failed to provide evidence or have not shown up when asked to show proof of the allegations. Professor Owusu, who has been chairing a meeting of vice chancellors in Ghana here in Accra today, says this week's documentary by British broadcaster the BBC has seriously battered the image of the country's premier university, and the nation should be concerned. My colleague Justice Bedu, who was at this meeting, and our reports.
Professor Ebenezer Owusu looks calm and collected. His mood seems opposite to the current situation of the institution he leads, the University of Ghana.
It's so bad that we think our image has been battered.
He has just stepped out of a meeting of dons of universities in Ghana, which he's chairing, to talk to me about what he would do to check the issue of so-called sex for grades captured in this week's expose by British broadcaster the BBC.
So we need to go back and redeem our image. It's had such a negative impact on us, as a university, as a nation, and all the universities of Ghana, so only University of Ghana, the universities of Ghana. Yes, so it's not as if we are not doing anything. We are. And you know the chairs of the sexual and harassment committees, they've all been very, very tough women of integrity. And so I have no doubt that they're doing a good job, not for University of Ghana alone, but for the nation.
This is supposed to be one of the ordinary meetings that vice chancellors in Ghana would usually have every quarter of the year. But this particular one, coming in a week when the foundations of the nation's premier university has been shaken to the core by this Sex for Grades documentary, could not be business as usual. Back at the University of Ghana, the school at the center of the scandal, students go about their day-to-day activities. Many would not speak to our cameras, but the few who muster the courage to say the university should do more to protect victims.
I think they can create some counseling committees that will help the girls who get sexually harassed, so they go there for help, so they'll be free from their trauma.
Because it is not only female that they harass sexually, men are equally involved, or men are equally harassed. So it is open to every member of the community. If you are being, or if you are engaged, or somebody has done that to you, you can come and report, and they will do further investigation into it. So for that issue, the university had a long time, and I know they have dealt with similar issues over and over and over.
Yes, people claim they are threatened by those abusing them. So it's kind of, being blackmailed and threatened is a scary something. So I don't think anyone would like to speak up when you're scared.
These are difficult times for this school. 2 of its staff involved in the film have already been asked to go home. But for the thousands of students who continue to study here, it seems university administrators have more to do in restoring confidence and save its credibility that is now on the line. Justice Beidou, Joy News, Accra.
The University of Ghana Vice Chancellor Professor Ebenezer Owusu, in an exclusive interview, also categorically denies allegations of sexual harassment against him by CEO of Africa Integra's Andrea Kony. In a tweet, Andrea Kony alleged that the Sex for Grade investigative piece that incorporated some lecturers at the University of Ghana resonates deeply with her. But Professor Owusu says the woman is only bitter. He's been speaking with my colleague Justice Beidou here in Accra.
You just need to treat it with the contempt that it deserves. You've seen me, and you can tell. Personally, I would describe the lady as somebody who is desperate, somebody who is bitter, and extremely angry. She's full of anger and frustrated because she had a project running. She intended to invest 64 million. And then the investor was going to pay out of that when completed, 25 million every year for the next 25 years. So 25 million every year for 25 years, up to 600 million. Yes. And now it gets to a point where she's unable to continue. Obviously, she will struggle, because by now she would be sitting back, counting her golden eggs. And those golden eggs are not coming anymore. So obviously she would do whatever. So I personally am not too surprised at what she's doing, because truly it's something that I anticipated could happen, and it's happened.
Now, Prof, you describe this woman as someone who is bitter. But this is a decision that was taken by the university, and like you say, it's something that, according to you, you justifiably took. Why would he then be making this allegation at your person?
Yeah, because she thinks I'm the leader. Yes, she thinks I'm the leader. She had said several times that I'd never granted her the audience that I should have granted her. The fact of the matter is that I decided that I don't work as an individual. I work in a team. So you can't be meeting me as an individual. So whenever you come, be prepared to meet the team. And she protested. So she felt I didn't want to open up to her. Yes. So she expressed a bit of anger at my approach towards these things. But I'd make sure that anytime she came, she met with senior management. The only time that she booked an appointment that she wanted to meet with me in my office, deep down in my heart, something told me no. And that was the last time I had an interaction with her.
All right, so joining us on phone now is the CEO of African Tegras, Andrea Kony, and we'll be speaking with her in a bit, but we'll go over onto Twitter because she has, in the last few hours, put out on Twitter that she never, ever alleged that the Vice-Chancellor of the University of Ghana sexually harassed her. But let's check out some of the tweets that she had posted or previously. Let's go to the first. So here she says, Andrea Kony, please see my response to articles quoting the VC, denying my earlier remarks on social media. To be clear, I never accused him of harassment. Rather than chase me around a table, he refused to invite me to the table, dismissing me instead as just a pretty face. Related issues, of course. So this is her statement saying that she was never, or she never accused the Vice-Chancellor of the University of Ghana of sexually harassing her. But if you go to her previous tweet, the initial tweet, which spawned the conversation that we're having now, she makes some reference. I'm trying to get to that. But we can also get on the phone now and get to speak with Andrea. Hello, Andrea.
Hi.
All right, so thank you very much for making time to speak with us. Now, you talk about the fact that you never, ever actually accused the University of Ghana Vice-Chancellor of sexually harassing you. But I've been monitoring your Twitter timeline, and it appears you fed into the Sex for Grades scandal and continued to make remarks or retweeted suggestions that he actually sexually harassed you. Why does it appear that you're shifting your position now?
Not shifting at all.
All right.
The point that I'm trying to make, and it's a very important point for some reason, and I think this is part of the education of the ecosystem of misogyny and the commodification of women. The line, the parallel, is the fact that these women are under incredible undergrad. We did a focus group. 90% of the girls said that they're being pressured by at least one professor for sex for grades. And the difficulty with that is that whether you succumb to that pressure or not, you then carry on in your career. And for the rest of your professional career, and I know the women of Ghana can relate to this, whenever you make any advancement, whenever you do anything of any recognition, then there is the immediate insinuation so often, oh, she must have slept with somebody to make that happen. She must have compromised herself or used her womanly prowess, as opposed to using her brain and her experience and her work ethic. And in the case with the Vice-Chancellor, the parallel that I drew was that it happened with such an incredibly high-stakes project as our infrastructure investment, which led to tens and tens of millions in losses for the university. His declarations, not just to me, but also in the council meeting, are a matter of fact, and and even his insinuation over the last 24 hours that I recorded with him privately, I mean, it reminds me of the crazy talk of Mike Pence, honestly, who made that bizarre statement that he would never have with a woman. I mean, as a professional woman, can you imagine how that sounds, that our only value or that every intention that we have is always to somehow seduce a man into getting what we want? That's just absurd. It's perfectly normal for two decision makers when there's an impasse to say, let's sit down and let's talk through these issues.
All right, so you've made the point, but I want to refer to the previous statement that you made, the first statement that you put out. And in there, I see this quote that you ascribe to the University of Ghana Vice-Chancellor, and you say, now, nothing could have been further from the truth. And in fact, all of my dealings at UGN in Ghana, it was the Vice-Chancellor who made me most uncomfortable when he repeatedly declined to work with me to save the project, but instead said that I was far too pretty to worry my little head about the project, while declaring And this is the part that I find critical. Quote, turn around, everyone. I want to give her a proper hug. So I know well the pressure these women are. So I want to understand in what context you brought this line, turn around, everyone. I want to give her a proper hug.
It's because he said it, and he said he made the first statement. So these are just statements of fact.
Okay, so if he said...
It's very important.
So
but
if he said that...
Very important. Very important. You can't let women, you can't take away our power to use and to call it what we want. I didn't accuse him of harassment, and did, especially because I don't want to distract from this deeper issue. That's so important. The enormous pressure that these and also this insinuation that a woman is only as good as her pretty face or her body to advance her career. That is underlying so much of this abuse. And unfortunately, that's what I witnessed in my engagement with him by the remarks that he made. And frankly, there are like when kind of hug. I don't recall the details hug to remember. I know my discomfort, but I'm not trying to accuse him of so many other things that are high. For example, the attacks he made against me, just that I tracked by using my womanly power to coerce his predecessor.
All right, Andrea, now it turns out that you have said something about the Vice Chancellor of the University of Ghana, and it turned out that some reports have come out suggesting that you said he has sexually harassed you. Now you're saying he didn't, or he never did. Would you... I
never said that. It was a headline who said that I said that, but I never spoke to ABC News. Broke that story. My statement is what my statement on social media was.
Would you...
And I think that it skews the issue away into becoming a he said, she said, although there were many witnesses in the room, this notion of the abuse of power and the commodification of women and how we are valued, whether it be our brains or our bodies.
All right. Andrea, I want you to say specifically what you're accusing the Vice Chancellor of.
What would you say to the Vice Chancellor?
So the Vice Chancellor, you've said something about him. He's not too excited about it, or it turned out that it was reported that he said sexual harassment. Would you want to say exactly what he's done wrong to you?
I think a statement later this afternoon, which I to the Vice Chancellor. I addressed it to the professor. So I think that pretty much encompasses my situation.
Which is exactly what, if you could just articulate it.
Rather than, there was no harassment, there was a complete dismissal of my credibility. The attacks that he's made against, in terms of the convocation meetings, his releases, the slanderous statements to the media in the last 2 years, all of which, by the way, it's about trying to think of the bigger picture, which is how do we allow people to let off some steam and say so that we can focus on getting those buildings built, which is what everybody should be worried about. All of that, what's the root of it? Where does it come from? Why is he attacking me and not W.P. Carey, the investor who ultimately took it? Because it wasn't me, actually. I was the one that was humbly showing up in Ghana every month, hoping to meet, to find common ground and to renegotiate what's required in order to put the project back. Why is he targeting me? What's the root of it? And then when you look at these other countries, is that there's just a sheer disbelief that, or so it seems, that who either looks like me or is my age or whatnot is capable of executing a project like that, when indeed I did.
All right, you have stated you put out in your statement that you don't have a problem with him and you want to continue the work that you started. Will you be considering apologizing for all the harm that you may have caused him with the remarks that came out?
Because my statements are matters of fact, and so I don't think any apology is required. I think that, if anything, the media is careful about the headlines that they use and treat stories with care, because, in fact, all of the women affected to sex for grades, and any harassment, their lives are affected. And so I think that it's an instinct to use sensationalism. One needs to be quite careful. So I don't need to apologize because I never alleged anything that didn't happen or that happened. Statement here. What I will say is that it's in my heart. So my focus, the made it, well over a year, and there was already a judgment. In the event that stakeholders were want to finish these buildings, I would come with an open mind, and I would engage with him or anybody else. The invitation of the stakeholders to focus on getting those buildings built, because I think that's the most important thing. But I don't want that infrastructure project to get in the way of the grades scandal, because this scandal, it's not a scandal, it's a reality for, honestly, hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of young women in the world. I mean, it happened to me when I was an undergrad.
All right.
So.
All right, thank you very much, Andrea Kony. Andrea Kony is the CEO of Africa Integrals, which has had some business dealings with the University of Ghana in times past. We're taking a break here on Joy News Prime, but still ahead in the bulletin in business. Ghana pushes for a common local content policy for Africa's oil and gas sector.
Agreement to establish African Continental Free Trade Area lends credence to the call for the integration of local content policies into a regional local content framework in the upstream petroleum sector.
You're watching Joy News Prime. Stay tuned in. We'll be back in a bit. Conferences hosts the South Dai district in the Volta region. Mental health is curable. Authorities are embarking on this campaign following the successful rehabilitation and reintegration of 15 mental health clients into their respective societies. The 15 were also given months vocational training to equip them with economic skills to fend for themselves. Join us is Fred Kwame Asari's report right to you.
This is the community of Pekiblengo, a farming community in the South Dai district of the Volta region. It has a population of about 3,000. 30-year-old Joshua is one of the clients of the Peki Government Hospital's mental health unit.
My condition disrupted my education. When it happens at school, I am forced to return home. I become weak, but I managed to complete basic school and decided to become a tailor.
For 5 years, he's been receiving treatment at this facility for a mental disorder. He frequents the unit for medication and counseling. Vivian Nkrumah, one of the caregivers at the mental health unit, says Joshua has completed a major part of his treatment and she attests to his improvement.
And he's really responding to treatment. As you can see now, he do his daily living activities without any form of assistance. And one thing you have to know is being sick or being diagnosed of any condition doesn't mean you can't do anything. You can do anything for yourself once you are diagnosed and have the willing to get the treatment and work for it.
Joshua is a tailor, but is unable to earn much to support his treatment. To help support people like him, the mental health unit of the Peki Government Hospital partnered the EBEMS fungi to give Joshua and 14 other recovered clients vocational training. Togbe Jumper II, Chief Executive of EBEMS fungi, took 7 of them through mushroom farming. The other 2 opted for snail farming. The remaining 6 were thought bead making.
The way one of them behaved prompted me to ask a lot of questions. So they were thinking, and one day one of them to the nurse, to the head of the department, told me that he even used his salary to buy the medicine because some of them cannot afford some of the medicine. So then he's also looking for any other means to help them if I can come to their aid. That is where I see that, well, I'm also a human being like them, nobody's perfect. And there is, I think, mental challenges it's a disease like malaria. One day I can also be one of the mental challenges. So I took it upon myself with my team. And it's not, this place is not an ordinary place. It's a well-registered company.
Joshua and his colleagues who received the 9-month vocational skills training were given startup kits to set up their businesses. Joshua says he's hopeful combining the mushroom farming and tailoring will earn him some income.
The tailoring business is seasonal. Sometimes you sew and people refuse to pay. So I will use the mushroom farming to support myself. I believe I can get some money for my medication.
Head of the mental health unit at the Peki Government Hospital, Tete Mercy Sichope, explained the initiative.
The project seeks to address specific challenges that we have also identified in course of service delivery. They are as follows. We have high rate of relapse. We realize that when clients are treated and they go back to the community, sooner than we think, they return back with the condition. So this rehabilitation project wants to address that. We can talk about the high use of substance in the community. We also want to tackle neglect and streetism by the client, and also high dependency of clients on their caregivers back at home.
The Peki Government Hospital is appealing for support to continue the training and rehabilitation program. Fred Kwame Asari's report for Joy News.
Former President John Mahama is accusing government of plotting to wreak havoc and create confusion during the 2020 polls. Mr. Mahama, in making the claim, cited a letter in which the Upper West Regional Security Council requested MPP regional chairman to submit names of persons to be trained for next year's elections. The NDC's flag bearer says the party subsequently followed up on the letter and discovered that indeed government is training thugs at Esusuare for the election, a situation he described as worrying. He fears their actions could destabilize the peace of the country. Mr. Mahama made these allegations when President of the Ghana Journalists Association, Afil Moni, led a delegation to pay a courtesy call on him.
We remember what happened in Ayawaso West Wuogon. I pray that God forbids that nothing like that ever happens again. But you know the issue of vigilantes, you know, that especially one party is training. I remember at the time of Ayawaso West Wuogon, there was a letter that came out, you know, asking some party executives to bring able-bodied people to be trained, you know, as security for that party during elections. Since then, we have evidence that those people are being sent to Esusuare and trained in batches over and over again.
The former president also accused the National Communications Authority of shutting down pro-opposition media houses.
I believe that we have situations of, you know, some abuse of the media, oppression of the media. We fought to open the media space so that our people can express themselves freely. There has occurred under this government a situation where the law is deliberately used to shut down dissenting stations, and it is unfortunate. I mean, if you look at the pattern of the stations that have been closed using the law, they're all pro-NDC stations. And I think it's a very bad precedent, because I pray that it doesn't happen in future, that the shoe is reversed and some other government comes and shuts down stations that are pro-opposition. And I believe that GGA cannot but condemn this, you know, in the highest terms. The law is just being used. I mean, the stations have appealed to the electronic tribunal. Somehow they've managed to get the judge to resign. Government has refused to appoint a new judge to adjudicate the case deliberately, just so that they can keep the stations closed. It's totally unacceptable. But I just want to caution the NCA, the way they're going, the way technology is going, a time will come when you don't need the NCA, you don't need a frequency. And they're going to force stations to, bypass the NCA, because if I don't use a frequency, I don't need you to give me a frequency to broadcast. And that technology is coming.
President of the Ghana Journalists Association, Afil Moni, appealed to the former president to ask his followers to refrain from assaulting journalists.
Expect the leadership to impress upon their followers to keep their hands off journalists. Because if journalists are attacked, our democracy is attacked. And if our democracy is attacked, then the soul of this nation is attacked. And no one knows the unthinkable consequences of attacks against journalists.
Water supply to Kumasi and other parts of the Shanti region is under threat as siltation caused by encroachment and pollution hit the Barekese and Owabi dams. Ghana Water Company officials say the Owabi Dam, which supplies 18 million gallons out of nearly 49 million gallons daily from the two treatment plants, has dropped in depth from 21 feet to 6 feet. There are fears Ghana could be compelled to import water in the near future if sand winning and other activities are allowed to continue. Prince Appiah joined a team from the Public Utilities Regulatory Commission on an inspection tour of the two dam sites and has come through with this report.
Millions of residents of Kumasi and surrounding communities depend on Barekese and the Owabi dams for water. Supply capacity of Barekese is 30 million gallons, while Owabi accounts for 80 million gallons a day. However, activities of encroachers, including land development, farming, sand winning, and indiscriminate dumping, threaten existence of the two water sources. Owabi Dam, which used to be 21 feet deep, is now only 6 feet, which reduces its water holding capacity by 2/3. Ashanti production manager for Ghana Water Company Limited, Charles Tulasi, briefed the PURC delegation.
Happening with their activity, the dam is gradually getting silted. So the capacity the dam has to store a lot of raw water would be in future be in jeopardy. Said that when it comes to the dry season, we need adequate amount of raw water to treat. Will not have it in future going forward. So their activity is having siltation on the dam, is also introducing pesticides into the water. Now when we have, the more pesticides they introduce, the more chemicals we have to use to remove those pesticides. So it's increasing our production costs. It means that in the future right now we are doing 30 million gallons a day. The installed capacity 30 million gallons a day. In future, the next 5 years to 10 years, if this situation continues, then instead of 30 million gallons a day capacity, we would be doing, say, half of it.
The delegation from the Public Utilities Regulations Commission, led by the Commissioner, went on an inspection and monitoring tour of the two dam sites. PURC Commissioner Mame Oforidufie says the almost crisis situation can potentially lead to tariff hikes.
Has led to a dam which should have a depth of 21 feet, now coming to 6 feet, silted up by sand winning and other human activities. I mean, it's getting close to almost a shutdown. And so it is a very serious situation now, because at the end of the day, it impacts the cost of operations, which with any responsible regulator, you will have to use as a pass-through. And we are sounding the alarm now, because very soon we will be struggling with water.
Technical Committee Chairman of PURC, Ishmael Ajekumhene, proposes immediate action to halt the destruction. He says the situation could land the country into importing water.
Because these activities are definitely going to lead to a situation where we wouldn't get Owabi existing like this in the foreseeable future. Let's act now, and we expect the media to champion this crusade and make sure that the people understand that we are getting to crisis levels and we all need to act.
Meanwhile, the Ghana Water Company says it is mobilizing resources to begin the dredging. Prince Appiah reporting.
Now, ties were set in a demonstration carried out by drivers of the Circle Overhead Station against the alleged invasion of their lands. It took the joint effort of the Ghana National Fire Service and the police service to quench flames and ensure that the situation did not get out of hand. According to the Vice Chairman for the Progressive Transport Owners Association, Glenn Ansong, the drivers have been threatened several times in the past few days to leave the premises by unnamed macho men. Thursday's demonstration stems from the arrival of excavators and more of such threats at midnight.
Actually, we were here 3 days ago, and some people came here claiming the land is theirs. So fine. We told them that if the land is theirs and they want to vacate us from here, this is not the way to do it. They should hold their peace. They should talk to those who sold the land to them. For the people to come and talk to us, then give us some time so that we can move out. They said no, they will still dump the sand here. They brought in a sand. But as we were talking, one of our colleagues called the chief of Adabraka, and he came in and he talked to the people, and the people left. So we decided that we will wait and see what they will do, because we have to know. So we were here till daybreak, nothing happened. So we went home. This dawn, they came with stones. And
how many people are we talking about here?
They are about 10 in number, if I may say. They are 10 in number. And they came in, and the way they are big, they are giants. So we couldn't do anything, because from the beginning we've told them that we are working here, but we are not the rightful owners. So if they have something to tell us, they should go and talk to the people, so that people will come and talk to us.
Although the drivers have suspended their demonstrations, they are unhappy with the new challenge in their work area. They spoke about their frustrations with Joy News.
When we saw the thing, we saw that no, if we should intervene or ask them any question, maybe there will be open confrontation. So we quickly rushed to the Nima police station to make official report. And we were given one commander, whom I don't know the name and the rank, but he escorted to this place and met the people. He spoke to them, he asked them many questions, and they answered him, and they produced a document which we didn't see, but it was the commander who read it. And finally the commander told us that we should leave the place. He don't want any fight. Should we fight or make any noise, we will be arrested. And I asked him, that commander, so at the moment can we go on the road and load, because it is getting so what exactly are we doing? Our drivers will be working, the passengers will also be coming. He said no, should we go to the roadside, we will be arrested. So we do some consultation. They said they gave our regional secretariat copy of the letter. They informed the assembly, but we were told the assembly also is saying that no, they are not aware of that.
My name is Risky Noble, and I'm a taxi driver and at the same time a musician. And yeah, we had a long time, about 22 years ago. I had a friend, my middle of transport taxi rank. I accept brought to us. But we go say, but I bet you at least man, about 1 week and 3 months in Puerto, 3 months and Bibi Kakra. But they came who are high at the best house because also they pay. And when I be at a man, a penny back say risky, Monsolio, they are cornered there. Squad, they don't want to be good, they anymore. That's the key, bus stop 1 year easy.
Private legal practitioner Martin Kpebu has called for strict enforcement of the fit and proper directive of the Bank of Ghana and bar persons who used to hold key positions in any of the collapsed banks from getting back into the financial sector, warning if care is not taken, the mistakes of the past would be repeated. The Bank of Ghana has strict rules concerning which category of persons can hold senior management positions, and especially the banks. Mr. Kpebu, however, suspects these directives are being ignored. He spoke with Daniel Dadzi on Joy FM Super Morning Show.
Okay. And then also finally, but Daniel, you know, in the midst of all this, you remember that in the midst of all this, there were certain persons who were involved in this collapsed bank who are now in some of the surviving banks. Meanwhile, there are provisions that say that if you are involved in management of a collapsed bank, you shouldn't be employed. if you check, some names, I don't want to mention names, that we can return to it, but it was played out in the media that some of these surviving banks have employed people who are in management in these collapsed banks. Meanwhile, the Banking Act, Agencies Act 930 specifically says that if you were involved in management, you should be employed. Yet we've done that. So you see that we have barely finished with the cleanup, and yet we are starting another banking failure. Yes, because you never know what this could portend in the future. So we should look at that seriously. I think the Bank of Ghana is not yet today. The facts are very clear. All those who were in charge of management of the collapsed bank, let's scrutinize. You remember when the media took up this matter, somebody resigned from the board of one of the banks, right?
Yes.
But there are others who are currently in employment, and I think we should do ourselves justice. The Bank of Ghana should sit up.
Mr. Kwebu also wants a trial of William Atuesian and 3 others for allegedly stealing 262 million cedis from the Capital Bank to be held in public.
What happens is that in criminal cases and generally the court system, there are so many impediments that delay the cases. So then the first thing we should be looking to see, and which we should push for, is that we should have the court that's going to try this case set up in such a way that perhaps we relieve the judge of so many other duties so that he can focus. We relieve the state attorneys and the investigators and the other people who are going to work on this case also on their other duties so that they can concentrate. So that this way we can have a speedy trial. When that is done, it will boost the confidence of the international community in our system. And we ourselves, even before we talk about the international community, we as a society, it will help us immensely. So what it is that you very soon find that if the experience is anything to go by, the judge will be doing this case. We have several other cases. Several is actually an understatement. Hundreds of cases. So often there is a divided attention. So when a trial is held today, the next one is, let's come in 2 weeks. The next one will come in 1 month. Meanwhile, in the same Ghana here in the 1960s, cases such as this, they dedicate, 2 weeks or 1 month, we would deal with only this case and get it over with.
So would you then support the calls for dedicated courts to this case?
Absolutely. I mean, it's a no-brainer. That's the same thing.
We saw with the Enron scandal, for instance, that these hearings were public. Would you suggest that to the judiciary?
Oh, yes. That would be fantastic. Yes, it would help because, from day one, I'm placing more weight on the trial process, bringing education to the populace and also sending a signal to the whole society that, look, this thing doesn't pay. So I think, yes, telecasting the proceedings would also help immensely. Yes, because as I've always said, let's not be fixated on conviction alone. No, conviction is just the end product, but the whole process would send a very serious message to our society.
Thank you very much, and I'm Israel Lai. Thank you very much for watching Journey is Prime. Have a good night.